Okay, let's then turn to the critical issue of that trade deal, likely impending trade deal, which is agriculture. Lots of questions whether India's markets are going to be open now to US agricultural products. Is that a good thing or not? What could be the implications? Who better than to answer that than the country's leading expert on agriculture, distinguished professor agriculture at ICRIA, Professor Ashok Gulati. Appreciate your joining us. In the Indo-US trade deal, one red line and the one uncertainty is over agriculture, particularly after comments from the US Agriculture Secretary and other officials saying that America will now get a huge benefit of access to our markets of agriculture products. Should that worry Indian farmers if the US gets unlimited access to Indian markets for their agriculture produce?
Well, as they say, devil is in the details, and we yet don't know the details. So it's a little premature to comment on that. But overall, I would say my feeling is, and whatever I'm reading from the two sides, is that there would be those commodities which are open, which are not very much produced in India. I'll give you the example of almonds have been coming from US. Almost 90% of what you're consuming in the country is coming from California at a duty of about 13-14%. Whereas walnuts have a duty of 100%. What is the rationale of that? I don't understand. So their interest is on many dry fruits, cranberry, and all that. The big issue is in case of soybean, corn, and dairy products, if at all. And that is an
So,
issue of GM and
right.
non-vegetarian cows there.
So would you draw a red line, particularly on genetically modified soya bean and corn? Would you say that the Indian negotiators have to say that that is an area India is not ready to concede to US demand to allow corn, GM corn and soya bean easy access to Indian markets or ethanol?
It's always a give and take. And I feel in trade deal, you can't take one stand, no, nothing will come. That's an extreme position. Then how do we get access to our labor intensive products like textiles or leather goods or gems and jewelry and even our shrimps? If they attract 50% duty, we were gone, literally. So I think it's always a give and take. Now the issue of GM, the GM has been in our food system since 2002. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee opened up BT cotton, and our production, which was 13 million bales at that time, jumped to 39 million bales within 10 years. And the seed of cotton is in the food system, both for animal feed, poultry feed, as well as cottonseed oil. And soybean oil is coming from US in any case. So, saying that nothing of soya will come, soybean oil is already coming. But whether soybean can come, how much quantity, at what tariff rate, that is all a matter of negotiation, and I'm sure our negotiators have taken care of that.
You're saying that you're confident our negotiators have taken care of that, but is there a sense that eventually this could become a very uneven battle, given the sheer power of the US agricultural market? Dairying, for example, another area where India is saying that they will draw a red line. Can India and Indian farmers really compete with high-tech American farmers when it comes to agriculture?
80% of our products are very competitive. In fact, we could be exporting. So agriculture is not a gone case. It's a very efficient sector, except edible oils, and that too for palm. That is the cheapest oil in the world. And that's coming from Indonesia and Malaysia. A bit of pulses. Uh, the statements that I read from the two ends, our ministers are saying they have fully protected the smallholders and agriculture will not be impacted. But when I read the US Secretary Agriculture and they say, oh, we are going to flood the Indian market and so on and so forth. I trust my own ministers more than what the tweets are from the US side. So if there is a quota, and gradually the tariffs are reduced. And that is the way things have to be in every sector. Agriculture is not very different on that account. Mhm.
In a sense, though, Professor Gulati, is this a time and opportunity for Indian agriculture to reform? Given the challenge, as I said, that exists from US agriculture, there will be opportunities. Do you believe that a debate should start on agri reform, or do you believe it's a political hot potato that no one will touch after what happened to the government's earlier plans for agriculture reform?
I would say the reforms in agriculture are overdue, and it was good to see after, President Trump's tariffs threat and so on and so forth, when he had raised it to 50%, Indian government got into action and did a lot of reforms of GST and doing ease business and so on and so forth. So, sometimes when you are faced with a challenging time, that's the time to reform and come out successfully. And I
Right.
think Modi government has done pretty good coming out of this 50% tariff. Our exports have not dropped drastically, no hue and cry on that front. And our growth rate has sustained unexpectedly more than what perhaps any economist, or at least I never expected 7.4% growth rate in GDP would be
Right.
there. And they have achieved that. So we have to give some credit, whatever they have done in the face of these challenges.
Sir, but farming in India, I come back to the agriculture point. Farming in India remains largely unmechanized, small, fragmented land holdings. They don't have very little scope for large machinery. US farms, cutting edge equipment, even now AI driven technologies. How will I come back to the mismatch? There are many who fear that we are entering a trade deal which could be one sided. Do you believe these fears are exaggerated?
These fears are exaggerated. I think our farmers, despite the small holding, have been we are on agriculture basis, we are exporting about $6 billion to US, and our imports for last year it was $2.5 billion. This year perhaps it could be $3 billion. So we are a trade surplus even in agriculture with respect to US. And think about whatever stringent conditions of SPS and other things are. Our shrimps have been going, $2 billion is shrimp exports. And overall, to the global market, India's exports of agriculture $52 billion and imports are $37 billion. So we are a net exporter of agriculture, whereas US, though it's a big exporter, but on the whole, it is a net importer of agriculture. Despite all their machinery, AI, and modern technologies, they are net importers of agriculture. China is the largest net importer of agriculture. India, of the big countries, is a net exporter of agriculture. So there is something our farmers can do. Right.
Reassuring, Professor, your words are reassuring, educative as well. There are those, of course, who are saying this: the trade deals that we are signing, EU, America, all of this could be a 1991 like moment for trade, and possibly some would argue for Indian agriculture. But do you really believe this is a 1991 like moment where we could turn adversity into opportunity?
Well, we have to set our house in order. Our domestic reforms agenda has to be carried through. If you want to compete in the international market, you can't have all around restrictions. You know, our wheat exports were banned in 2022 when the Ukraine war started. And it is still banned after almost 4 years coming. And it is banned. We could be exporting wheat.
Professor Ashok Gulati, for sharing your wisdom. I always appreciate it. Once the details come out of the trade deal, we'll come back to you to tell us more of the impact on Indian agriculture. But for now, thank you so much for joining me tonight.